From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Let me find the story here. Oh yeah, here it is. Chuck E. Cheese. Headline, Chuck E. Cheese pulling plug on animatronic robot band for good. Reading from Billboard right now. Yeah, the animatronic group that has been a staple at the Chuck E. Cheese pizza and arcade chain for 4 decades is going into a permanent deep freeze by the end of this year due to changing tastes among the ball pit set. According to the New York Times, the Mechanical Animal Band, fronted by singers Chuck E. Cheese and Helen Henney, with Jasper T. Giles on guitar, Mr. Munch on keyboards, and Pasquale on drums, will be removed from all but 2 locations of the chain's more than 400 U.S. locations. And if you're in Los Angeles or Nanuet, New York, you are privileged. Your Chuck E. Cheese franchise will still have the band. And I bring this up because I was a singer in that band. I don't know how long if they still use the old recordings, probably not, I'm sure. I'm sure they had new recordings. But back in the day, way back when I was living out in San Francisco, I hooked up with this producer. What was his name? Gene Patrick. Gene Patrick produced the entertainment. He did the recordings for the Chuck E. Cheese band. And so I worked in the studio with them, and yeah, so I was one of the voices you heard singing with the Chuck E. Cheese band many, many years ago. Again, I don't know how long they used the same recordings. Maybe they used them forever. I don't know. So there you go. Talk about memories. That was fun. So goodbye to the Chuck E. Cheese band. You will be you'll be missed. Well, let's see what's happened in the news since last we spoke. Well, right about the time we did speak, I think it was that last Thursday, President Joe Biden made the announcement that he would not supply Israel with offensive weapons. And he actually withheld these mega bombs, these big 2,000-pound bombs. And so, wow, one little light of good news there just for a minute. And that didn't last long. Just, I think yesterday or today, he announced or asked Congress for another $1 billion, and the offensive weapons are back. President Joe is 100% political these days. He's making all of his decisions on politics. It's just he's not President Joe for the next 6 months. He's candidate Joe. He's waffling on Israel. Last week, again, around the time we spoke, he's talking about ironclad. He used the term ironclad commitment to Israel, even when we disagree. And then, like the very next day, he makes this announcement about withholding offensive weapons and these big old bombs. Less than a week later, he kind of backtracks on that because he gets lots of guff from Congress. And mostly from his political advisors, who are really running the show now, as far as I can tell. Everything about Israel, like I said, he's waffling on that. He just announced a new round of Chinese tariffs, which we all remember when the Orange Menace invoked the tariffs on China, and every economist, not just the right wing or left wing, every economist said, tariffs don't really hurt anybody except the consumer. A tariff is a tax on U.S. consumers. It's a dollar for dollar correlation. is what they find or what they believe. And now, years later, after they've gone into effect, what the data bears out. Yeah, if there's a dollar tariff on a product, that dollar is paid by you. And if it's $100, then $100 is paid by you. And that's just all there is to it. So the Orange Menace did a terrible thing for the economy and for U.S. consumers. But it worked politically, especially in the swing states. People in the swing states like the tariffs because they believe his BS that somehow is being tough on China. Well, it's all just 100% BS. And it's actually bad for the consumer. It's bad for the voter. It's bad for the U.S. economy. And yet, it works politically. So what does Joe Biden do when he comes into office? He keeps the tariffs in place. He hasn't touched them. The Orange Menace tariffs have stayed right where they are. And now, Joe is talking about a new round of tariffs on a few things, mostly high-tech kind of stuff. Most notably, EVs, electronic vehicles. And it's strictly a 100% political move. Now, I have heard some argument that we need to lessen our dependency on China for certain products that we depend on because, for example, during COVID, we depended too much on China for things like syringes and the PPE, the personal protective equipment that healthcare workers needed. All right, that you make a pretty decent argument. If you need to take some measures to create more independence in our own supply chains, in our own manufacturing, if and when, God forbid, the next pandemic happens, we don't want to find ourselves in the same position. Okay, all right. That's an argument I can understand, at least. But these tariff policies are 100% political. So Joe's just working on politics these days. He's not the advisors in the room are definitely taking a back seat to the policy advisors are taking a back seat to the political advisors. There's just no question about it. I mean, just look at what he's doing. His rhetoric on Israel, like we just talked about, back and forth. He tries to get tough, but then he gets blowback, and then he backs off. The debate, you might not have heard the news, just happened within the last day or so. Apparently, the two major presidential candidates here have agreed tentatively, keyword, to two debates. They're going to be, let's see, June 27th, hosted by CNN, and then the second, September 10th, hosted by ABC. So they're completely bypassing the Commission on Debates, which has been operating the debates for the last several decades. Neither side, Republicans and Democrats, aren't happy with the Commission on Debates, apparently. So they just invited the networks. All right, okay. So there's talk about, I've heard that one of the rules that Joe Biden wants, because now that's what happens now. Now they get into negotiations about what the rules will be. And by the way, this is all not the way the world should work. I think there should be an independent commission, and I don't think there should be any negotiations at all. It's our way or that doesn't rhyme, our way or the highway. It's my way or the highway. I think there should be an independent commission that is answerable and accountable to the American people. Because we're talking, remember when we're talking about this, these are all private entities. None of them are accountable to the American people or to the United States government. There's no oversight. They're not part of the three branches of government. No, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, the Commission on Debates, the networks, all of these are private entities with zero accountability. So if I were in charge, I would try to bring this into the realm of small d democracy and make it part of, it's like public funding. It's why public funding for campaigns is a good idea. You put it in the hands of the people. Everybody in the current system is a private entity without accountability, and so they're only looking out for their own interests. So the networks, what do they want? Well, of course, they want ad revenues. What else do they want? That's all they want. So whatever's the most exciting, whatever will get them the most eyeballs, and the candidates want what they want, of course. Now, what I've heard is from the Joe Biden side, they want a small audience or no audience at all, and they want the mic to be cut off when the time is up. Now, those are two things that I find agreeable. I think that's a pretty good idea. Cut the mic off when the time is off, because we know, we've seen the last couple of election cycles what the Orange Menace does at debates. So generally speaking, I'm up in the air. I'm kind of leaning toward, I don't want any debates at all. I don't know what good they do the American people. There are. It's weird to even say this, that there are undecided voters. I mean, what kind of a psychopath do you have to be undecided at this point? How low can you go when you're talking about low information voters? Are there low information voters that can actually go that low that you need to hear from these guys? But that's where we are. We got 5 or 6 swing states, and we're just counting on the low information voters who haven't made their mind up. So I guess if it serves that purpose, all right. But I don't know. I'm not sure a debate serves anyone except the money, CNN and ABC ad revenues. But yeah, if they can cut the mic off when time is up, and if they can have a small studio audience or no audience at all, because what's happened the last few times, obviously, they've just become a complete circus. They've become insane. The Orange Menace just runs roughshod, and it just becomes a complete joke. And then they pack the audience with a bunch of partisans, and everybody's yelling, and it's embarrassing. So we'll see what happens. I tend to think, I don't know, I'm a little skeptical that they'll happen. The other thing about debates, both sides want to keep out any third parties. And if we did have debates organized in a public funding kind of model where they have accountability and they're really looking after the interests of the voters, we'd have third parties. For all of the terrible things you can say about the Republicans, and there's just too many to list, one of the bigger faults of the Democrats is how undemocratic they are, small d, when it comes to third parties. Boy, they are very good. And they work tirelessly, the Democrats do. State by state, county by county, precinct by precinct, they'll do everything they can. They've got just teams and teams of lawyers keeping third parties off of ballots and out of debates. And yeah, in a better world, in the world we deserve, yeah, there'd be 4 or 5 candidates up there. You'd have the socialists, and you'd have the green, and have a couple of independents, and why not? What are you afraid of? Well, obviously what they're afraid of. Can you imagine? Can you just close your eyes for a minute and imagine a debate stage, and there's Cornel West, and there's Julie Stein. Julie Stein? I forgot her first name. That's it, right? Jill Stein. And then there's the socialist candidate. I don't know who that is. Howie Hawkins was the green candidate a couple cycles ago. By the way, a side note, Howie Hawkins, Green Socialist Notes. Jot this down. It's a podcast, Green Socialist Notes, hosted by Howie Hawkins. I listen to it every week. It's fantastic. So there's our debate stage. There's Joe Biden. There's the Orange Menace. There's RFK Jr. There's the Socialist. There's the Libertarian. There's the Green. There's the Independent. Now that would be a debate. But that's not how the world works. So there you go. Politics. I don't know. It's not too late for, I can't help but just dream that somehow both of these guys find a reason to exit the stage before November. Nothing would make me happier. Okay. While we're on politics here, the Orange Menace, as has been true now for ever since he descended the escalator, he does something almost on a daily basis that's so insane that just a few years earlier would have been 80 font headlines over the fold, to use an old-fashioned term. Every day he does something. And the big one to me this week got almost no coverage. At a dinner, he had this big dinner with a bunch of rich, donors, and he was talking to big oil executives. And he didn't hint around. He came right out and said it. If you give me $1 billion, I will give you what you want as far as all the drilling you want and all the tax benefits you want and all the deregulation you want. Now, of course, we've all become kind of cynical. Of course, this happens all the time, right? We know this, but it doesn't happen all the time. It's a wink and a nod. And so, yeah, it's a problem, but he doesn't even bother to wink and nod anymore. It's just 100% blatantly lawless. In other words, he's committed another crime. He's on trial right now for a campaign finance law breaking. And while he's on trial, he takes a day off from court and goes and commits another crime. This is literally a crime. As a candidate, you can't promise a quid pro quo. Again, we know it happens with a wink and a nod, but you don't just come right out and say it. He is absolutely shameless, and he does it. And there's some recordings of this. It was a behind closed doors, like no cameras kind of thing, but there are cameras everywhere and there are phones everywhere. So he just broke another law, a big one. Oh man, we haven't really talked much about the trial because I just feel it just makes me sad. The one thing I did say, and I'll repeat, I'm not predicting he's going to walk, but my gut feeling he is. Anybody who predicts what's going to happen doesn't really know, because nobody can really know. You got 12 jurors. One of them might be a flake. I don't know. But the thing that happened this week that drew my attention were the Republicans that went down to literally sit behind him and support their friend. They all called him their friend. Senators, Rick Scott from Florida, J.D. Vance, Tommy Tuberville, Byron Donalds, the representative who's the least known of this group, but he's apparently on the short list for VP for the Orange Menace, as is Doug Burgum, the governor of someplace, one of the Dakotas. I forget. And most notably, the Speaker of the goddamn House of Representatives, third in line to the presidency, powerful position in the U.S. government, kowtowing to the Orange Menace, actually goes to New York, makes a speech, calls the Orange Menace his friend, and uses all the Orange Menace talking points. How this is a show trial and the weaponized against the Orange Menace and keeping him off the campaign trail, and how are the bogus charges and it's not fair, and just insulting the American judicial system. The Speaker of the House, who just a few days ago, the Democrats in Congress saved his job by voting for him as Speaker when Marjorie Taylor Greene, she finally pulled the trigger on her notice to vacate, called for a vote, and I'm not quite sure why the Democrats saved his ass. Why? What's going to happen in the next 6 months in Congress? What do they have left to do? They're not going to accomplish anything. Why not just let him hang? Why not let the Republicans just make complete fools of themselves again and have 45 votes on who the new speaker is going to be and line them up one by one and shoot them down one by one? And who cares that Congress becomes completely frozen, unable to act? Fine. What are they going to accomplish in the next 6 months anyway? There's no way this sitting Congress is going to accomplish anything in the next 6 months. Tell me how anything happens in the next 6 months. So I guess there are people way smarter than I am. I guess they know what they're doing. I don't know. I don't understand it. Somebody has to explain to me why in the world they saved Mike Johnson's job for him. I don't get it. And then he returns the favor just a day or two later, goes over to New York, and spits the lies and the vitriol, and kisses the Orange Menace's butt. And you remember when he was president, and he would have these meetings, these public events, or he would invite the press into, say, like a cabinet meeting, and go around the table and have everybody compliment him. That's kind of what this was. It was just embarrassing. It's just, how low can these people go? Man, it's crazy. All right. Well, there you go. I guess time flies pretty quickly when you're having fun. Maybe I can leave you with something. Let me look here. Oh, I'll leave you with this. The campus protests, it's graduation week in a lot of places. And many of the encampments are coming down because the university administrators have been cool about it. That's all they ever had to do. They never had to call the cops. Right here, I went over, spent some time with the students at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee last week, and their encampment is coming down because the administration worked with them. It's really not that hard. You have a peaceful protest, and you talk with the protesters, or what are your demands? Well, let's see what we can do. So it's all very reasonable. Other University of Minnesota, I believe, had a similar story. Several other universities I've read have done this too. There was never any reason to get all heated and call cops and make this thing crazy. The demands, they're pretty simple. They're calling for a ceasefire and condemning genocide. And UW Milwaukee said, yeah, we agree with that. We call for a ceasefire as well. We join you, students. We join you in your call for a ceasefire, and we too condemn genocide. Now, some of it's a little tougher. The whole divestment thing, UWM Foundation said they can't really legally do that, but they'll look into their options. They promised that this is just the beginning. This is not the end. They promised they will talk with the students going forward and see what they can do. Disclosure of their investments, something they can do. Cutting ties with private companies that profit from war. Again, there are lots of laws that come into play here, so they can't make big promises, but they've promised to look into it. Yeah, it's the start of a whole process. And it looks like, to my eye, pretty damn reasonable. And of course, it's too late to get into it now. We're at the end of the program, but the atrocities just continue. So it's not like we can just drop this thing. So good for the students, good for their mission, good for the administration of UW Milwaukee and other universities who are talking with the students and finding places where they can agree and continue to talk and maybe make a difference at some point. Because that's the bottom line I'll leave you with. Protests make a difference. Caring makes a difference. It's easy not to care. It's easy to just pretend it's not there. It's easy just to live your life and say, well, that's above my pay grade. I just, what can I do? Hats off to the protesters. Hats off to the administrations who have decided to treat them with respect and actually work with them. And the opposite of hats off, whatever that is, to Netanyahu and the IDF and the Israeli government that continues to block aid coming in, continue to attack journalists, continue to attack health workers. The settler violence in the West Bank is still happening, still threatening the all-out attack on Rafah, while smaller attacks have actually started, pushing refugees who have already come from the north to the south, pushing them back north again with no place to go except, the rubble they left behind. Starvation as a weapon of war. Other nations now are joining in the call of the International Court on charges of genocide. So, yeah, nothing new except that it's, as I say every week, and it's true every week, it just gets worse and worse. It just gets worse and worse. So if it is any kind of a positive note, thanks to the students, thanks to reasonable administrators, and let's all remember that we can make a difference if we care and if we act. I'm so tired, just couldn't be more tired of people who hold up their hands and say, well, nothing, I only care about what I can control. No. If the worst piece of writing ever put on this earth is that so-called serenity prayer. Oh, teach me to know what I can't control. No, screw that. Care. Act. All right. I love you. I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Go to the website, charlespurcell.com, for all the past programs and all the other titles in the podcast family. Contact me, charlespurcell@gmail. Follow on Facebook. Thanks to River West Radio, our terrestrial flagship station, riverwestradio.com. And Peter Donalds, who wrote and performed our theme song. All right, see you next week.